Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the NBA slate for Saturday. Happy Saturday to everybody watching. We're going to go through DraftKings and FanDuel as usual, and also touch on prize picks as well. Get that started just because I'm making this video in the afternoon and they're bored. It does have enough pieces for us to go through it. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, if you enjoyed the videos, appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out all the socials in the description, Twitter, website, prize picks code. So speaking of prize picks, got a couple of like 5 props I really like locked in. Most of them are coming from the fantasy score. That's the one that I usually like to go to. Every once in a while, I'll go with like assists or rebounds or points if I see a number pretty low. But first guy we have here is Markkanen over 23 fantasy points. He just returned in his last game, so we don't have much of a sample here. But this is a pretty low, in my opinion, without Rondo, without LeVert, without Garland. He started last game, as he will be in the starting lineup as usual. I don't know when. I mean, they'll still like to probably bring LeVert off the bench, but Markkanen's going to be looking at least high 20s in minutes or mid 20s in minutes. It was his first game back in a while last game, and we saw him play like mid 20s, played 27, played pretty well in terms of just getting to the free throw line 10 times. He was aggressive out there. So that's one I feel really confident in, over 23 for Markkanen. Another one that I like is going to be Trae Young to bounce back from a tough night shooting. He's only done this in like 2 out of his last 5 games, but he's gotten close in some of these times out. It's just been the shot didn't fall for him at all. Last game he shot like 3 of 17. Definitely not Trae Young like. But I would expect him to get back on track. It is a good matchup against Toronto. They got absolutely destroyed by the Hornets last night. It's a back-to-back for them on the road, and they could be missing like Van Fleet and Siakam are both on the injury report, so they could be really shorthanded. But Trae Young shot under 20% from the floor. Definitely don't see that happening again. So feel good about targeting him in a bounce back spot. So those two are 2 ones I like. Another one is Jokic going right back to him in a dream matchup against this Sacramento Kings team. They play Sabonis at the 5, which is a bit undersized, obviously, when you're going up against a 7-footer in Jokic. Sabonis giving up some pounds, giving up at least like 2 inches at least in height. But Jokic, he's done this 2 out of his last 5 games only, but he hasn't had a ton of. It's like this is a dream matchup. He went off against Sacramento last game, put up 65, and then earlier he put up another 65. So he's gotten over 65 fantasy points both meetings against the Kings, and he just missed out on a triple-double as well. It's a great spot, especially at home for Jokic, where he does average 4 more fantasy points at home. So I'm gladly take him under 60 at only 58. And then going on the other side, you have Domantas Sabonis at 44 fantasy points on prize picks. I'll take the over on that as well. He's really looked good in a Kings uniform. I know they gave up a lot trading away their young star in Halliburton, but Sabonis does fit nicely next to Fox in a pick and roll situation. And both him and Fox are playing huge minutes. But Sabonis gets you a ton of rebounds now that he's playing center. Gets you a lot of assists as well, especially for a big guy. And he's going to be looking at at least 15 to over 20 plus shots. He was aggressive the last couple of games shooting. Took a couple of threes last game against the Nuggets, which he will have because Jokic doesn't really like to stretch out and guard the three-point line. And then last prop, you could take Kyle Kuzma over on his fantasy score, but I feel like the assist is a great value. He's only at 4 assists. Since they traded away Spencer Dinwiddie, and Porzingis hasn't really stepped up to be able to make his debut yet. We've seen Kuzma handle the ball a lot more. They start Neto at point guard, but Kuzma's still handling the ball a lot more. He's getting a huge spike in usage, and it's transitioned into a lot more assists. He's gotten 7, 5, 6, 2, and 7 in the last 5 games, and it is a little bit scary just because they're on a back-to-back here, and they played a boatload of minutes last night in a huge game, double overtime game against the Spurs, which they ended up losing, but Kuzma had a monster game. So there could be concern with his legs, and maybe the minutes might not be there. But I'll take the over 4 assists. I feel like that's still a pretty low enough number that even if the game doesn't go as planned, he could still easily hit that number, whereas his fantasy score might be a little bit tougher. But that was the 5 props that I got locked in right now on Prize Picks. Let's go back to DraftKings now. We'll kind of touch on the core picks that I got for right now. You have DeJounte Murray. He's $10,700. Had a big triple-double last night. Played 43 minutes, which is not even that much considering that the game went into double overtime. So he could have easily saw close to 50 minutes if Pop plays, starters like a lot of the other NBA teams. But it's a tough matchup going into Miami. You can play him always, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. On a back-to-back, I'd rather go with Trae Young at 95 in terms of just getting back on track in a bounce-back spot. He's done really well without John Collins. Fantasy-wise, gets you more shots off, more usage, and the assists are always there for him. He's always a great bet for a double-double. Van Fleet is 85 if he plays. You could consider him, but you could look to Fox right now as a safer pick who doesn't have a questionable tag on him right now. 7K range, don't have much that I really like at all. 6K range, you have the Sumo, Tyler Hero as potential picks, but none of those really stick out. You are going to get some good value in the 4K range with Neto has been playing good minutes for him, high 20s or into the 30s depending on how well he's playing. He shot the 3-ball well last couple of games, so maybe he can stay hot with that. But the price tag is good enough to where you can consider him. But the real value is going to be Goodwin, who is now going to get all the point guard minutes because they don't have Rondo, they don't have LeVert, they don't have Garland. So he should be looking at least 34, 35 minutes. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays that many minutes. And get you with some assists. He'll probably be a great bet in the gambling market tonight, looking at his over on his points, over on his assists, just because they don't really have anybody else that can really handle the ball much besides Chetty Osman, and they really don't like to play him a lot of minutes, considering sometimes just doesn't kind of looks lost out there. At shooting guard, you're looking at Levine, Van Fleet, Middleton as your most expensive guys here besides Kyrie. Kyrie does look good, but he's 10K against going into on the road against Milwaukee. We've seen this Brooklyn team just get blown out on some of these games. Most of them were without Kyrie, but it's still, I don't know if I want to pay this much for him when there is still some risk of a blowouts. And even if he does have a good game, you're going to need a lot from Kyrie to pay off almost a $10,000 salary. Gary Trent is $6,500. He looks, they just got blown out last night, so they didn't play a lot of minutes besides Scottie Barnes to get some run in garbage time. But Trent, if there's no Van Fleet or there's no Siakam, we already know Anunoby is out today. He's just going to get a nice bump. He's already been productive in some of these games before when they're missing one of those guys, or even with those guys healthy, you can get red hot from 3. So he would be a candidate to consider. Barton looks fine at his price tag. And then in the 4K range, you're looking at Avdija's 5K, but he has been playing well for the Wizards off the bench since they got rid of some of their pieces. But I'm looking at Kevin Huerter at 45, looking at a very good value pick in KCP, I'd say, at 44. This plays good minutes. He's there for his defense, can hit some open threes, get you some rebounds. So I'll leave that position blank for right now, but definitely some guys to consider. Small forward, don't really have much of a top end besides Jimmy Butler. He's at 9,000, and it's a big drop off to Chris Middleton, and then a big drop off to the rest of the guys. Looking in the mid range here for Aaron Gordon, Markkanen, both price tags look pretty appealing. You have Scottie Barnes also looks good, just because even if the game does not go as planned, they get blown out again if they're missing Siakam or Van Fleet. He still got run and blowout, got up to 32 minutes, so that's encouraging. He's still a guy that they're going to play at least, I'd say, high 20s, low 30s, even if the game does go out of hand. But I'm going to go ahead and put in Markkanen right now. Just, they don't really have very many offensive pieces left besides, him. He can shoot the ball and score the ball. Kevin Love can shoot and score the ball. Goodwin can at times, but otherwise, you don't really have much in terms of just playmaking. Going further down at small forward, 4K range, same type of deal. I'm looking at KCP as a value pick, but nobody else looks super appealing. In the 3K range, power forward, top end, you have Giannis, who looks fine at 11.8 going up against Brooklyn. I prefer Jokic again today, but Giannis comes in as a close second. Sabonis looks good at 94. You could look to Kuzma, but all the minutes that he played yesterday might catch up to him on a back-to-back. He played 46, and they're traveling on the road. But he still always played well. Well, he typically does play well since they got rid of, Porzingis hasn't come in yet, and since they got rid of Dinwiddie. But I'm going to go down to Scottie Barnes at 65 to feel good about him as a safe pick. He already looks good anyways without Anunoby, and he could look even better if Van Fleet is out or Siakam is out. At center, looking to get up to Jokic. He's my favorite pick. in terms of a pay up on the slate. Giannis would be second. In the 9K range, looking at Sabonis at 94. The value picks here, you have Capello finally had a good game without John Collins. We've been waiting, but still didn't even get up to 30 minutes. They're not looking to play him a ton of minutes. They're still looking to have Okongwu get his share. You have 54, Steven Adams, 51 for Brennan Clark. He's been hitting value recently, but I would probably go all the way down here at the bottom end. You have a couple of guys right in the 3K range with Gafford, who got good minutes yesterday. Khem Birch is going to be starting most likely again, but I go Gafford going up against this big Cleveland team. They're going to need to have him or Thomas Bryant out there at all times, going up against this Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Markkanen front court with Kevin Love sprinkled in as well. So a very big Cleveland team. They're going to need to have Gafford out there. There's not really a game that they can go small with like Gill or like Hachimura at the 5. So at least about 49 for the rest of the spots. Feel pretty good about these 6. We'll probably get some changes if we get some news later in the day, but otherwise, let's go over to FanDuel. All right, on FanDuel, point guard picks, you have a good price tag on DeJounte Murray. He's only 97. Still a tough matchup, but definitely could easily pay that off just with how often he racks up triple-doubles and just does a little bit of everything. You have a good price tag on Trae Young at 92, and then you get $1,000 cheaper for De'Aaron Fox. Still probably Young than Murray as my favorites at the point guard position. But you have some good value here. 54 for Goodwin is still a good play. Just there's not too much in the mid-range here that looks that appealing, and he's going to get a ton of minutes tonight. So he's definitely one guy to consider. And then at the bottom end, you can look to like some of these guys on Denver, maybe like Highland or Composite. But they don't. Composite doesn't really play much, but not too much unless like one of those guys happens to miss, which doesn't look likely. But looks like Rivers is going to be like the 6th guy that they usually go to off the bench, or at least the point guard that gets a lot of the run. But I'm going with Goodwin just because I can feel confident that he's going to play high 30s, at least mid 30s in minutes. At shooting guard, you have good price tag on Levine, good price tag on Jimmy Butler. Going in the mid range, Trent is better on DraftKings, but playable depending on the news we get from Toronto. In the mid range, like the price tag a lot on Will Barton at only 58. Super cheap. He can really put up a good score if it gets hot with the shooting the ball. Your mid-range value pick is like KCP at 43, and that's the main pieces I'm kind of looking at. You can look to some of these Atlanta guys, but some of these guys got more run last game because because Hunter got sick at like halftime or early on, and then he didn't return. But I'm gonna go ahead and put in 58 for Will Barton. Small forward, your pay up is Giannis, who still looks great on FanDuel, but I'm still looking at Jokic as my preferred pay up. Kuzma is always super popular on FanDuel. They just never change his price tag, so it's tough to confidently fade him every single night, which worked out if you faded him against Brooklyn. Of course, that was when I played him, but I'll go ahead and play with like 70% of the field and play Kyle Kuzma at a very good price tag at 74. Other picks would be Scottie Barnes for sure as a great value pick. Markkanen, great value at 57. And still have KCP here. Power forward, looking at Sabonis at 96, but you do have a lot of cheaper options. Like Jared Allen is only $6,800 for some reason, but it gets probably even better with like Kevin Love is only 48. He didn't have a good game last time out, but he's still going to get some decent run if he is playing well, shooting the ball. Can easily get like mid-20s in minutes. Probably not going to get more than like 27, 28 on any night, but can still really fill it up. Price tag has come way down. But I'm going to go ahead and put in Scottie Barnes. He's really cheap on both sites, and he's pretty safe without Anunoby. And then at center, I'm looking to pay up for Jokic. Still at a good price tag, 11.5. His price tag just never moves on FanDuel. He's always right at 11.5. Capella as a mid-range option makes some sense. Thomas Bryant, not much of a pick for me. I'd rather go down to Gafford, but if he becomes popular, you can easily look to pay up at Jokic and pay down elsewhere. But going with these 5 leaves you with still 6,000 left, so you got plenty of options. But that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck tonight, and I'll see you all next time.